Howdy, 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 and thank you for joining me here on this beautiful Sunday evening. And tonight we've got a really interesting topic. We've actually got a couple of topics we're going to be going over tonight, and we have expanded the panel tonight. We are now going to be 4 strong in the panel tonight, and I'm going to bring them in one by one. As always, one of our best friends here on the channel. He is part of the channel. He's part of the family. Very good friend of mine. Please welcome our old friend, Clearwater Chad. Hey, Chad.
Hey, Poe, how you doing tonight?
Good, good. How are you, brother?
Good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Excellent, excellent. You ready for tonight?
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
We got a bunch to go over. And next up on our panel, he's been on here several times before. He has been a good friend of mine going on a while now. He and his wife have been doing amazing work in the field of anti-Scientology. He is a private investigator. He is one of the people I consider very trustworthy and someone that I look to if I need some information. I know I can go to him. He's going to give it to me straight, and he's going to give it to me in a very professional way. So please welcome our surprise guest for tonight, Mr. Jeffrey Augustine. How are we doing tonight?
How are you? Hey, Chief. Hey, Chad. Clearwater Chad. How you doing?
How's the wife doing tonight?
She's doing fantastic. She said she sends you all to say hello
and tell her my love right back to her.
Yeah,
just an absolutely sweet lady. All right, and as advertised in the thumbnail for tonight, he's the one who brought a lot of this to my attention. That's going on with these restraining orders that are going on out there, the temporary restraining orders, the TROs. He is a retired deputy from the LA County Sheriff's Department. You all know him. You know that he's a straight shooter when it comes to this stuff. He's been a good friend of mine, and he has been, without a doubt, one of the biggest supporters of every channel in the SPTV community. Please welcome SirCreptius.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you. How you guys doing?
Good.
Excellent.
Great. Glad to be here.
Well,
hey, Chief, you can tell the Miami Vice guys are Clearwater Chad and Agent Augustine. The retired cops have T-shirts. We have.
Yep, that's how we like it.
That's the code. That's how you can recognize us.
This is a dress T-shirt. I wear this to weddings. What are you talking about? This is good stuff.
I'm just saying that Clearwater Chad and I got the Miami Vice vibe going on. I think we're more stylish, Chad, than the retired cops.
Now, I'm really interested in what has been going on with these restraining orders, how these popped up, where they're coming from, how they got them signed into action. There's a question about whether or not at least one of them was properly served on the protesters out there in LA. And to me, it's just amazing what has been going on with this. So, SirCreptius, if you would lead us in a little bit here and tell us a little bit about what you know about how they came about, and then we're going to go into the judge who actually issued them.
Yeah, so the protesters were out at Big Blue one day, and LAPD shows up to serve a restraining order on DOA. And now the information I had, I didn't verify this, but the information I had was that they weren't able to actually make contact with DOA, so the restraining order was either handed to somebody else or put on DOA's windshield, and the officer left.
Now, have you seen? I saw a video where there was a sergeant that came up to his window, was reading out, I believe it was the restraining order, with DOA leaning out the window, not very happy about it. So would it be a different service then that had happened on that, or do we know if they tried to serve him on more than one occasion on that?
I don't know if they made several attempts, but it's not all that uncommon for police officers to be asked to serve a restraining order in the field. If there's somebody that, like the process server couldn't find the person, that could happen. And in cases like this, where the police are often at Big Blue, because, Scientology likes to call the police every time somebody sneezes in their parking lot. Yeah, so they just used LAPD. Plus, I think that they wanted to probably not get a process server involved in going into a crowd of protesters. So
yeah, I could see that. Yeah. Now, Jeffrey, you've been a private investigator how long in California?
Gosh, I don't remember. 6 years, maybe.
So, are you familiar with the temporary restraining orders and all that? how that
Yes,
works in
yes,
California?
I am. Yeah,
How
yeah.
easy is it to get a TRO on someone?
It's not a simple yes or no. You have to do a filing, go down to the police station. There's often bureaucracy you're fighting. It depends on the person, the situation, the imminent threat of violence, danger, physical harm. So for like a protest or free speech, that would be hard to get. You're
Okay.
a woman whose ex-husband's threatened to murder her. That's immediate. So I think SirCreptius, you would say it depends on the situation, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Every situation is judged differently. They're not just automatically just given.
Now I know here in Michigan, because I've had to go and be a witness on, I can't count how many, we call them PPOs, personal protection orders here in Michigan, but the initial, it's not as simple as people think it is. At least in my experience, you have to go in, you have to wait for however long till your case is called up, and then you go in front of the judge and you're going to present your evidence. And if they feel that there is enough there, that they will temporarily assign the PPO, but then they will set a date to have an actual formal hearing on it. Is that somehow about the same as what they do there?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's exactly what they do here.
All right. And everybody, if you get a chance, make sure you say hi to my good buddy Dave from Gotta Love Thailand. Excellent guy with some great content out there. I think he married way above his pay scale, but I'm not going to hold it against her. Everybody makes mistakes, so he's a really good guy. And thank you for being here. Let's see here. I don't want that one up yet. Let's see. Thought the restraining orders actually had to be served on the person, and that's what you were saying, wasn't it? Is that they have to actually be served to the person. You can't just, I think in this situation where the sergeant was outside the van talking to DOA, he read it out to him. And can they just leave it at that point, or do they have to actually hand it to him or touch him with it?
If the person refuses to take it, they can just drop it at their feet. It's served. It's
Okay.
a good service.
Yeah.
Let's see. And Mona, everybody see Howdy to Fat Grammy. You've all seen her on here
Yeah.
numerous times. The thing is that when you go in front of a judge for a temporary restraining order or personal protection order, the question of whether or not it's false statements that go into it, that isn't what's brought into it. It's believed that the person who's requesting the restraining order is making a factual statement, and that in the process of making that statement, that's what the judge has to go on. It's in the later hearings where they're going to determine the facts based on it, that whether or not the restraining order should remain in place. That's where the validity and whether or not the statements made are true or not. So normally in the initial hearing for it, they're just going to have the person who is the supposed victim who needs the restraining order. They're going to come in and they're going to give their side. And if they have any witnesses who can back up what they're saying, and it's, they're sworn in, just like in any court case, they're going to have to swear in, I tell the truth, nothing but the truth, so help me. And, that's when it comes to the next hearing, where if they can prove that there had been false statements, that's where that restraining order can be knocked out. And I don't think I've ever really seen it, but people can actually be found in contempt if they made false statements in getting the temporary order. So have either you, SirCreptius or Jeffrey, have you ever seen anyone that they caught in a situation like that actually get punished for making a false statement on a TRO request?
I have seen it only on very rare occasions. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Yeah. Likewise, it's rare, and normally false TROs are not charged, but they become civil lawsuits. That's more
Okay.
the normal case. I'm suing my ex because he or she made a false and defamatory TRO against me. So they become exhibits in civil cases. That's my experience, but they're not charged.
Okay. Yeah, I always, anytime I've ever heard of anything like that, it's always been more of a case of the judge would admonish them there, or possibly look at contempt of court kind of thing. But I've never seen anyone actually get in trouble and get prosecuted for perjury. So it's interesting. You can go in and make false statements against someone, get a restraining order, which could harm their ability to make a living, even go to their own home, things like that. But you get caught lying about it, and it rarely anyone ever really gets in trouble for it. And Chad, I think you've got what, 30 outstanding restraining orders against you. How's it gone in your cases when you've gone in to back them
Well,
up?
like you said, Poe, like you said, it's the people that it's the liars that are lying about me that don't get in trouble. And as you know, I'm the good guy, I'm the good seed, and I'm the one always accused of crimes, even though I'm innocent.
There was a lot of stuttering in that. That sounds kind of like looking to the right and up and everything there, Chad. Think you incriminated yourself. Everybody say howdy to Penche Becky. Hola mia. So, all right. So I'm looking here, just making sure we're not missing. I'm starring comments as they go. I want to thank you to all of my mods that are here tonight. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. There's stuff going on throughout the SPTV community. Tonight, we're going to focus mostly on this. We have some other issues we're going to talk about, but yeah, Matt, Chad seems to rack them up pretty good. So mostly from what I hear, they're from gentlemen's clubs and places like that he's not allowed to go back to. Let's see. And thank you for being here, Deviant Outcast. Thank you. So I'm going to pull up, first off, tell us who this judge is that we're talking about.
That'll be Rudolph A. Diaz. He's a LA County Superior Court judge.
Now, I find it really interesting. You say he's LA County Superior Court, but what kind of cases does he handle on a day-to-day basis?
Well, prior to going to where he is now, he was assigned to Los Angeles courthouse. I forget which one it was off the top of my head, but he was handling mostly drug cases is what he was handling.
Okay.
Drug possession for sales, stuff like that.
Okay. And does he work in the Family Superior Court or anything like that now, or is that what he's doing now, is handling narcotics cases?
Yeah, he's been reassigned. He now works at Edelman's Children's Court in East Los Angeles, and he handles cases relating to crimes committed by children, family issues, child custody, stuff like that.
Okay. And I mean, in on that point, you know about how long he's been over there in the child the juvenile courts there?
I was unable to find out when he was reassigned over there, but I know he's been there for over a year. I just don't know exactly when.
Right. One of the things Jeffrey, in your experience, how often do you see juvenile or family court judges signing TROs against people and for people that have nothing to do with juvenile or family court?
Yeah, I that's what's so strange to me. A drug, judges are assigned to departments. They're all lawyers they begin with, and they have experience, and then they're assigned to where their skill sets fit. So it is unusual. Marty Rathbun, he wrote a book. He wrote 3 books. He talks about them getting a Judge Beach. And this was in a case where they were trying to get, I think, Attorney Ken Dander sanctioned for like $1 million because he had signed a non-disclosure agreement. Okay. And so sometimes I think Scientology knows how to judge shop. Well, and you get the right attorneys, you can actually judge shop and get it to the right judge. That's gamesmanship in the court. So it's very unusual, but it does occur that you can go judge shopping. You can also go shopping for jurisdiction too. Take it to another county. So this is a term of art, of course, that we call fuckery, Scientology fuckery. If that's legal, that's a legal term, right? You guys were cops.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to SirCreptius's point, this is, in my opinion, judge shopping. There's something going on behind the scenes with some attorneys who have connections, because they know damn well, and the regular motions judge wouldn't sign it, or the regular judge wouldn't. So they go to another judge who will play ball. That goes on. and it's
Yeah,
not illegal, but it's a malicious use of the court system.
oh yeah, and Bill and I talked about this the other night when we were talking when we had our live stream. It's real. It's not uncommon at all. I mean, we've heard about it here. I personally know, speaking with the district attorney here and with the state attorney general's offices on cases, and literally hearing them talking about, well, we want to get it in front of this judge or we want to get it in front of that judge. If we can't do that one, then we'll have to go for this one. So it's pretty much nationwide that they do, like you were talking about, judge shopping. So it's amazing to me that, folks can literally just go out there and go file for the court that they want and try to get in with these judges that they know are going to side with them. And that's legal. I just don't understand how that meets up with our question of law. Go ahead, Chad.
Oh, just real quick, because Jeffrey did say it, and I don't think everyone knows, he mentioned Marty Raspin. I don't think everyone knows that Marty Raspin is the former number 2 man in the whole Church of Scientology. Very important man. I just want to make that statement, folks.
Former Inspector General RTC. No, the reason when Marty was on our side, before he capitulated and went back to the church, he did write a book. His 3rd book is about Scientology and the legal system. It's called Memoirs of a Scientology Warrior. It's well worth reading because it does show a lot of what he did in the Tichborne case up in Portland and other things. And it does show, it's the only book out there, I think is a valuable book, because it does show some of their legal plotting and strategies, like in the McPherson case and other things. So these are the kinds of long-term things you look for. You can also do a case analysis and just being down at the court a lot. I'm down at the court way too much. Okay. And in Scientology matters, when you go downtown, criminal court, where they had Masterson's one side, civil courts the other, parking garages in the middle, right? So whenever with Scientology, when I go downtown, I'm thinking, is today criminal court or civil court? Because they're in both. But you'll hear attorneys out in the hallway, hey, I don't want to go to this judge. I don't want to go to Department 54. Let's try to go to Department 51. That goes on all the time.
Yeah.
You hear that in the hallways if you just hang around waiting for your case to come.
Now, Janelle H is an attorney. Janelle saying judges don't sort through and choose cases they want to hear. They might refuse a case if they feel their calendar won't accommodate a case or if there's a potential conflict. But I've actually seen the prosecutors, defense attorneys have actually done things. They either go and they meet with the clerk, or they meet with someone else, or they make a phone call. Next thing you know, their case is being put in front of a judge, and it's the judge that they were wanting to pick. So, I mean, that in a perfect world, yes, it would be awesome that we don't have judges being able to do those kinds of things, or clerks being able to do those kinds of things. But everybody in the legal system at one point or another know which judges are hard case judges, which judges are going to be the easy judges, which ones are the ones that will work with you on things. So, and that's a sad thing. And I've gotten that from the experience of doing that. But, it may very well be that the judges don't sort through and choose the cases. But if you have, someone in the clerk's office or something like that, it gets pretty easy to be able to get these things in front of the judge as you want.
Yeah. And Janelle's made a comment. Oh, I'm sorry, Pope.
While I go down and pull that one up, Mona, Fat Grammy, she's wanting to make sure that you let everybody know who you are. And,
okay. Yeah. My name is Jeffrey Augustine. My wife is Karen Della Carrier. She was in the church. She was married to Heber Jensch. And that her story is quite shocking, of their son dying at age 27. My blog's called the Scientology Money Project. It's 10 years old, and I focus on Scientology, crimes, lies, and legal matters. So I've been a critic. I started in 2005 at zenu.net, went through Anonymous, Indies, all the phases. And I created a blog to it's a free, non-monetized public resource: crime, lies, legal matters, court cases, legal documents, legal filings, the structure and nature of Scientology legally, how it's constructed as a corporation. So I'm trying to educate, and it's a resource used by journalists, law enforcement, law firms, the public. So that's what I wanted to do as part of Alexander, my wife's only son, dying at age 27 under horrendous circumstances. The church wouldn't even let her kiss her dead son goodbye. So vile they are.
Well, they wouldn't even let her go to his service, would they? She had to create her own.
Yeah, we did our own. We chartered a yacht and it had a wonderful time. The people there, I'm grateful to them for how they stepped in and helped. And we scattered flower petals in lieu of the ashes.
Yeah,
and that's where I said, I'll do what I can do to take this cult apart.
Yeah,
to Janelle's, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, I was going to read. In many courts, judges are on a rota, meaning rotation, to hear exigent matters. TROs are emergency cases.
That's a great comment, Janelle. Thank you.
Yeah, and Janelle, let me say, I'm not trying to. I think of you as an asset to this channel, so don't think I'm trying to say you're wrong about things. What I'm saying is that the judges may not be doing it, but somebody in there is absolutely there. And like you say, it's probably the clerks who are doing it, and somebody plays games with these schedulings, and that's where I have a real problem with it. So
yeah, and in civil cases out here, you have in California, you have a right to reject the judge. You get one time. Each side can reject the judge. So if you have one right to, and that's what David Miscavige just did, Janelle. He waited till he was served. He was within the 20-day window to reject the judge and get another. So he used the statute to his favor to just buy more time. So there's gamesmanship going involved with sophisticated law firms hired by the church. So we have to factor that in.
And they have deep pockets for having these judges on board. And I think that a lot of people don't realize just how much the church actually, how much the church actually spends on these kinds of things. So
yeah, it's an unlimited legal budget.
Let's see. Nisa, aren't there laws against things like this? I mean, that's so ridiculous that this exists. Bill, do you know anything about anything to stop that? Because the way that I hear it and the way that I've seen personally, there's nothing to stop them from judge shopping.
Yeah, there's really nothing that can be done. There's no laws against that. I think there should be. I think that if somebody wants to file a restraining order, they should do it in the proper jurisdiction and use a judge that's in that court. They shouldn't be able to go to another court like that. It's again, it's they're going to a judge that they know is going to be biased on their behalf. And it's unfair. Now, I'm sure Kendrick Moxon, he probably had a clerk in his office prepare all that paperwork, and he or one of his clerks hand walked it into the court and asked for that judge specifically, because that does happen. But the judge can turn him away if he wants. But if there's a bias there and the judge is happy to act on their behalf, then that's what he'll do.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff how this happens and the way that they treat it. So this judge, when you think about it, judges are supposed to be fair and impartial, but when we look at how this judge is and part of their past, there's a document that SirCreptius sent me, and I want you folks to take a look at this. Can you explain this to us, Bill?
Yeah, so that is an article that
I'll make it a little bit bigger.
I took offline or from online from a Scientology Freedom magazine or Freedom Watch magazine, which most people know is kind of a propaganda tool that Scientology uses. So and this, imagine that. So this article features Judge Diaz with his drug court.
Here we go, Judge Rudy Diaz. And do we know anything about this other judge, Stephen Marcus?
I do not.
It's interesting.
SirCreptius, that's a fantastic find. I hadn't seen that. That is really fantastic. Freedom Magazine is Scientology's in-house propaganda organ, as they would call it in the Soviet Union. And that is an absolutely fantastic forensic find. It could be evidentiary in nature. To actually link a judge to Scientology, that's phenomenal work, SirCreptius.
Yeah, it is.
And you look at this and you say you read what it's saying, It says they have spent their adult lives in the illegal arena upholding not just the letter of the law, but its spirit. That's a very interesting statement, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
And spirit meaning Scientology spirit.
Now,
Nobody else.
and this is here's another interesting quote here. As judges, respectively, of Rio Hondo and Los Angeles municipal courts, they have defined justice not as an act of socially sanctioned revenge or punishment, but rather as those judge, well, they mistyped there, judges have spent their adult lives in it's the same crap.
Well, Chief Poe, this is L. Ron Hubbard. They have defined justice not as an act of socially sanctioned revenge or punishment. This is why Scientology thought that Danny Masterson should not be put in prison, nor should anybody. L. Ron Hubbard believed that Scientology could refine the criminal, and that prison was a bad thing. Now, L. Ron Hubbard had reasons for himself to be in prison, that he was subject of, he was sentenced in absentia in Paris to 4 years in prison. He had IRS investigating when he died. So this is completely consonant with Scientology's language. I did a live stream yesterday where I quoted Hubbard as saying he'd witnessed the execution of a prisoner when he was a LA cop, which he wasn't. He was he worked for a detective agency, but he said that prisons did nobody any good. And I'd mentioned that even on Leah Remini's show, Scientology in the Aftermath, I'm on camera talking about how they're against putting anyone in prison. So for a judge to say this, he's in pretty deep in terms of understanding their indoctrination and anti-prison mentality. This is actually pretty remarkable. This could be a live stream in and of itself where I could show what Scientology thinks of the prison system.
Here's an interesting, these two paragraphs right here are very interesting in how that they're worded. Never satisfied to merely issue judgment, both judges' interests lie in the communities that generate the crimes they review each day. And realizing that imprisoning a drug addict does not solve drug addiction, and its many attendant problems, both judges became instrumental in bringing drug costs to Los Angeles for drug-related and drug-addicted offenders. To finish the drug court program, one must completely come off drugs. The program includes court monitoring, drug testing 5 times a week, and counseling. The offender must test drug-free for 6 months before graduating. As related to freedom by Judge, I think that should be relayed to freedom, Judge Diaz, the cost of this program yearly per person is $1,200 compared to $25,000 to cost to keep a person in prison, where the drug problem not only remains unresolved, but often becomes worse. Where are they having these testing programs that are costing only, you're testing someone 5 times a week and it's only costing $1,200 a year to do it?
Oh, this sounds like it's a diversion program with Narconon in mind.
Well, that was my next question, was because it doesn't actually go in and say it in any of the in this article, but it says the program includes the monitoring. But is the program Narconon based? What is going on with this? And I
would say it is, and I'm going to investigate this. I know exactly where to go look on the state funding. There's been many attempts to Scientology would like to hijack mental treatment and force people into Narconon. And if they get to people like a judge to divert people into a Narconon program, that goes back to Alfredi Johnson, Freedom Medal winner, and his World Literacy Crusade in Compton, California, which was raided. And they were using high school coaches to get people into Narconon, students into Narconon. So this is really an interesting find. This just for right now, I'm going to bracket it, but I'm going to investigate this, and I know where to look in the funding.
Here's a very interesting statement in here. Judge Marcus described the concept to freedom as tough love. The individual is compelled to undergo treatment in his own best interests. The drug court judge must be part big brother, cheerleader, and taskmaster, he stated. Isn't it interesting? the individual is compelled to undergo treatment. So that would pretty much tell me that they're basically forcing this on these folks, that they're forcing them into Narconon, something like that. It doesn't specifically say what treatment. Lori Marie, a lot of people have complained that Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, the AA, NA, whichever you want to call them, that those being a religious based treatment program also, there's been a lot of contestation on that because of the fact of you're forcing someone into a program that is religious or faith based. So that would be your answer right there. If they can force you into AA or NA, then they can force you into another one. So it's an interesting.
Well, it's been struck down, Poe. The Narconon is technically a secular. Scientology has secular social betterment groups, it calls them. And Narconon's tried to present itself as based upon the works of L. Ron Hubbard, but non-religious in nature. And it's you basically take mega doses of niacin, you read L. Ron Hubbard, you sit in a sauna 5 hours a day, exercise. So it's cheap in terms.
Don't forget your niacin and your vitamins.
Your mega doses of niacin and oils and things.
Look what it's done for Chad's skin. Amazing.
Oh, he's a picture of health. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And folks, if you were gifted one of those 5 memberships by Gary Mackey, make sure you let him know you appreciate it. Here's Greg, 1118. As someone who has been sober for 3 years, never been in legal trouble, but very much could have. Anything that helps someone get sober and is good in my book. 12 steps, smart recovery. One of 2. Where's the other part of it at? But you have to treat people with respect. 12-step programs didn't work for me. Well, there's going to be people who are, no matter what, they're going to find one program doesn't work for them, another program does. And our problem is that the appearance of Narconon appears that it is a gateway into Scientology. I've heard a lot of people complaining, well, you have people who were being treated in Narconon who are now treating people in Narconon. Sometimes the best person to help another person get over an addiction is someone who's been through it and knows the personal hell that you go through in addiction. So, people can get clean, sober, and be able to move forward and help others. That's not something I see a real problem with. Hold on, Chad. Bill, you had something to say?
Yeah, just real quick, and I'm sorry to kind of go reversey here on you, but
you're okay.
There was a question in my chat, and for some reason it didn't make it to yours from Rib Guy, who asked if a police officer just kind of tosses the restraining order through an RV window, is it still considered served? Well, it depends. If the person that is the subject of the restraining order is in the car and you tell him, here's a restraining order, this is for you, you toss it through the window, served, it's served. Now, also,
I think in a situation like what I saw, where they literally read it out to him, I think that at that point, if they refuse, like you said, that it's a matter of they've been notified of it, they know it's there, they just refuse to take it. So,
well, serving is one of my colleagues, a fellow PI, went to a fellow's house. He's a high net worth guy, but lives behind gated property. But he was able to photograph him at his house, photograph his car, and rang the doorbell. The guy wouldn't come, so he threw the subpoena over the gate, and that was the court considered that a service. Well, and he photographed the subpoena on the property.
Look in the case of David Miscavige, how long they tried to serve him for the cases that he had coming up, and couldn't get him served, and finally a judge said, you know what, he served. So that's the thing. And mischief managed, yeah, I think that's a very pertinent point. If it doesn't matter what the program is, if the person doesn't want to get clean, get themselves out from under their addiction, then the program probably isn't going to work. You know, and it also falls true that not every program is going to work for every person. So you may go to AA and you may find that it doesn't work for you, but you go to another program, you feel more at home, you feel more included. It's any number of reasons. And I'm not bashing AA or Narcotics Anonymous or a lot of the other programs that are out there. It's a matter of it's what fits the person. It's just like Chad is endlessly addicted to electric vehicles. I don't like them, but we each have our own thing. We both get down the highway just fine. So
I'll tell you what, we had fun. We had fun in Florida with the electric vehicle.
It was fast. I'll tell you that. That thing got some boot scoot to it. Right. So is there any particular one of them you want me to show next, Bill? Of those stuff?
I think the other ones can go in any order you want. It just basically shows
okay,
where he's reassigned.
Let's see. I'm just trying to find it here. Let me see here real quick. Okay, so the next one coming up is just going to show where Judge Diaz is assigned. All right, I'm going to pull that in so you all can see real good there. Let's see.
And it also includes his phone number in case anybody needs to talk to him.
Oh my gosh.
There you go. Diaz, Rudolph.
Yep. Edmund D. Edelman Children's Court Judicial Officers.
Right.
So,
that's his permanent assignment.
And it says right there, Children's Court. And like you said, permanent assignments. And Judge Diaz here is in his permanent assignment is to 419. So that shows you there, like we were saying before, this isn't a matter of, this is a judge who, let's see, what do we got here? And that's just basically the same thing. This is a judge here who works primarily in children's court, not in the other courts, not in the other civil courts, things like that. This is a judge who is there in children's court, but he's signing temporary restraining orders. And is this the same article?
That's a different article, I believe, but it's these articles were printed way back when he was doing the drug court stuff. These are older articles, but it's just another article just showing how they're showcasing him.
Yeah, I mean, here we have Judge Stephen Marcus and Judge Rudy Diaz, both Los Angeles judges. Yeah, I mean, this goes back. It says 1996, President Clinton. But the fact is, and I was just trying to skim through it and see if there was any mention of Narcanon or anything on there. But the fact is, folks, is that we're showing why are these judges being presented in Freedom Magazine if they don't have some connection either to Scientology or Narcanon? I mean, we've seen pretty much everything that they put out, and I have yet to see someone who is being propagated in one of their articles or anything that isn't doing something that supports Scientology or one of their offshoot branches.
Hey, real quick, by the way,
nice.
Poe, I think you and I got an email from Cake OK.
Okay.
Showing a video clip of DOA or the sergeant at DOA's van or DOA getting served or something like that.
Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, I didn't see it. Okay, let me pull this up real quick, folks, and let me pause it so that we're not going halfway through it before it shows up there. But this is going to be the service of DOA with the restraining order.
Oh, it's not popping up, John. Oh, there it is.
It's not showing?
No, it's going. It's going.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm staying away from you, officer.
Be careful with the truck.
I am. I'm staying right here.
I want to leave. Scott, I want to leave.
Am
I under arrest?
Can I get
Am I under arrest?
I'd like to have a conversation with you. If he's not under arrest, he doesn't want to talk to you, officer. That's his right.
You have with a restraining order. So you're Scott. Are you looking at me? I don't understand. Okay. You have a restraining order that's been served on you, and you're to remain 100 yards away from here. From where? So, from all the signs all up here. Okay. So you're a dirty pig. What I'd like you to dirty pig, is to understand what I'd like you to understand that
Eat a fucking dirty pig.
So what I'd like you to
Bye,
understand
I'm leaving. I'm trying to leave.
is that
I'm leaving. You
Scott,
dirty cock.
what I need you to do, if you come back, you will be arrested. If you
dirty
come back,
pig. I'm trying to feed
if
the
you come
homeless.
back-
I'm trying to feed the homeless, you dirty cock
you
pig.
will be arrested.
Eat a big fat cock.
Would you like to step out and say that to me?
Yes, you're
Okay. If you come back, you will be arrested.
fucking cock.
If you come back,
Fucking eat a big cock. Can I go?
Have a good evening now.
Yeah, eat a fucking
if you
cock.
come back, you'll be arrested.
You're a fucking.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon to you. Okay.
Well, that was interesting.
Yeah, especially the little hand gesture down at the zipper line of the sergeant. That was interesting.
I mean, I got to say, he had exceptional control.
That sergeant did. Although I did see you raise an eyebrow at one point, and
Yeah, he also, but I also saw him smile too. So,
not the best thing to say to your supervisor.
Jeff, you might be best at answering this one. Where do people with substance abuse disorders fit in on the tone scale?
But that would be incompatible. It's an apples and oranges question. Well, let me rephrase it. If you have a substance abuse problem, you would be sent to Narconon, but you would be, I'm not sure where I would peg it on the tone scale. Maybe apathy. You could be near body death. I would need to ask my wife, who was a class 12 case supervisor, where, because conceptually, drug addicts would be very low tone beings. So maybe in hiding. It's somewhere down low. David Miscavige is -8. He's in hiding, which is very low on the tone scale. So I couldn't answer the question without. I can check my LRH references here, Poe, but that would take. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, but we don't have 6 hours to go through 5,000 pages talking about,
I don't know off the top of my head. It's a great question.
Yeah, it was a really good one.
Because that's why when you begin in Scientology, they put you in Narconon. You go into the purification rundowns that Scientology form. It's called Narconon in the secular version, purification rundown in the church. You have to run out all the accumulated drugs, toxins, cough syrup in your body. So before you can even begin Scientology, you go in the purification rundown because you're low toned. And hey, going off topic for a minute, the real secret of Narconon, or the purification rundown you read up on the secret OT levels, is that the niacin, the causes body thetans to unstick, to drop so you're out of re-stimulation temporarily enough to get some case gain.
Makes sense.
I just had to throw that in there. I have a whole article on how BTs, getting rid of BTs, is really part of why the purification rundown exists. So going off.
SirCreptius, did you see that comment by Kit Zelpy about having a conversation about the abuse of officers just doing their jobs and normalizing it by minimizing it?
Oh no, I didn't catch that.
So,
yeah, I don't think I have a mod on my channel right now, so.
Oh, okay.
Trying to bounce back and forth.
Let's see. I'm going to some interesting. Okay, folks. We're not here bashing anybody. Okay. I know everybody has their feelings about different things here, but we're not here trying to bash anybody. All right, trying to get down here, make sure we don't have. See if we got any actual questions. Let's see. Whoa, Amber Vanace, I did my purification rundown when I was 9.
Oh wow.
Now, we talked about that when I did the special on the Mace Kingsley. You were on there with us, weren't you, Bill?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
And I brought it up that a number of the sauna manufacturers all stated that children under 12 years of age, I believe it is, and some were saying 15, shouldn't be in those saunas for unsupervised for more than a few minutes at a time because their body can't control body temperatures. That's
Not like adults.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know, Chris, what he would have done, but it's interesting. Don't know.
Yeah, it's one of those situations. Be careful what you ask for because it might happen.
Yeah, yeah. That was well, it was interesting. So let's see here. All right. So Jeff, you had some stuff that you wanted to show us, correct?
Well, basically, I've been mentioning on my live. I've been down to watch live streaming, and what I've been working with some people on, just to make people aware. I've been mapping frequencies. I have a lot of devices. I'm working with some other people, and I've shown my frequency scanner before. And one interesting thing I've been trying to determine, I have a baseline. I know the spectral emission of an LAPD car. I know the frequencies, and that's just because on public bid specs, the Motorola radios they buy, that's published as well as their handhelds. I've been trying to determine if there's a direct line of communication that's not going through LAPD channels between Scientology and LAPD, if there's some unsanctioned channel. But I'm also doing frequency mapping for another project with some other people to look at radio traffic, and I'm not going to get into it. But there's a device I want people to be aware of. There's devices, and it's called Stingray. And let me see if I can testers aware, because I've been asked, am I safe when you're protesting? The answer is no. Between LAPD and Scientology, I want to share a screen with you that you may not be aware of. And okay, is that coming up? Can you see that? I think you have to share it. Yeah. Okay, now there's a device. It spoofs. It's the Secret Service and ICE are breaking the law. This is alleged. It's a pretty good article, but there's basically devices that criminals can use. They're illegal, but law enforcement's using them. They can spoof your cell phone into thinking they're a cell phone tower, so your cell phone gives them its identity, and then they map these cell site simulators, called Stingray, or here it is, cell site simulators, also known as Stingrays. They're using these. LAPD's mapping people, photographing them, matching their faces to their cell phones. And these are decoy cell towers. So I've been looking at the ways in which LAPD is collecting forensic database, and as well as Scientology's private operatives, to map out whose phone belongs to who. That could go to black hats that hack phones. So the question is, are you safe? No, not when you're dealing with a fascist cult who can hire operators to use this kind of equipment. And a lot of people don't know hacking's different from just getting your cell phone identifying information and getting your photograph. So there's a lot of sophisticated work going on. There's different vehicles down there that are either police undercover. Pope, if you can take that off share.
Okay.
I wanted to show you something.
You guys could check the private chat, please.
Okay. Okay. Pope, can you share that slide that I put up?
Yep.
Okay. Now, during the anonymous protests, and SirCreptius was there, as was I. This is an LAPD vehicle. They parked, the Frosty Ice Company. There's actually LAPD. They had cameras behind that smoked plexiglass, filming everything. They were acquiring signals. This came from LAPD's Piper Technical Center, located right off the 101. It's the world's largest heliport. It's a 5-story brick fortress. So I just want to make, I'm interested in what the forensic gathering of intelligence by Church of Scientology contractors as well as LAPD that may be in violations of our legal and civil rights. Because, you know, as we know, Scientology was asking live streamers, are you part of a group? Are you part of a group? They were trying to characterize them as a hate group. So LAPD has a lot of capabilities, and there's Timmy Tallman. And I was talking to SirCreptius about how I want to share another page, okay? If I can take that off.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, if you can take this off. Okay, I want to just share one more thing. I'm going to share a page. So I'm just putting together some stuff. Let me share this. And I had been talking to SirCreptius before the show. And if you could share that, please.
There we go.
Okay, now this is former LA County Sheriff Lee Baca. And this is the biggest department in the United States. He had ties to Scientology. There you can see him with LA Mayor Karen Bass in the background, and who's now she was a congressperson there. But there's Sheriff Lee Baca, and as I was talking to SirCreptius today about his experience, and he can share it, but you know he was told to kind of dial it back by the department. But look at that. This is Lee Baca, and this shows how Scientology's penetrated agencies, infiltrated, buying influence.
I think SirCreptius has some experience with that, don't you?
Yeah, but look at this. He's there. There he is with Alfreddie Johnson. So the LA Sheriff's Department leader, the top cop, and there's an LAPD cop. Yeah. So do you know that? You might know some of these people.
Jeffrey, here's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
Would it make a difference to Stingray if the phone is Wi-Fi on or off?
I have to look it up. It's I think they can get it in its native state. You don't have to, as long as it's transmitting, you just have to have a signal. It's not Wi-Fi dependent. But you can see that Corey Polka, former captain, Hollywood Division, was in bed with the church. Former Sheriff Lee Baca, who was sent to prison in an FBI operation, he was there. He's with David Miscavige.
Did Baca end up in jail?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he went to jail for what was it? Felony obstruction, SirCreptius?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there was.
Yeah, I'll let you explain it, Jeff, since you know.
Well, basically, there was brutality going on in the LA Men's Central Jail, over which the sheriffs have control of that. And I want to stop sharing this page. And so Sheriff Baca basically obstructed justice, obstructed the investigation, and was arrested and indicted, and he had to do some jail time. But Scientology's number one rule is to infiltrate at the street level of the protesters, infiltrate police departments, and get influence, and then court shopping. So you have to realize that this is, in some ways, Scientology is incredibly stupid. Other ways, it's very sophisticated. So it just depends on David Miscavige's impulse. Sometimes he does really stupid, damaging, destructive stuff. Other times it's methodical, long term. So I've been studying like who could be the operatives who are infiltrating. They'll often infiltrate people with mental health issues as agents provocateur. So I'm looking at this. I mean, I live near, I can walk to Celebrity Center and Big Blue, and so I've been looking at, unlike Anonymous, where I was protesting, with a live stream I'm trying to understand the forensic. I'm more sophisticated now than I was then. So I'm trying to understand what the cult is trying to do to infiltrate and destroy the live streamers, fragment them, segment them, what agents provocateur, who are they sending in, who are the flamethrowers, who are the quiet people. So this is actually interesting for me because it's happening in real time in my own neighborhood. And it's been very fragmenting to the community. I've lost some relationships because of it. Some people have disconnected from me, for lack of a better word, actually, because they've objected to, me being around people they don't like. I'm not taking a stand. Protesting is something I grew up with. My grandfather was a pretty well-known labor leader here in LA. And so I'm studying this, and Poe, civil rights violations, false arrests. How dirty is LAPD? How deep
Right.
does the corruption go? Police misconduct, but also Scientology paid operatives. Who are they? I have some clues. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not ready to make a definitive statement, but also the frequencies, the electronics of it, what they're doing. And that's so this is part of an open source intelligence program that a lot of people are working on behind the scenes. It's not high profile. I'm like one of the people who I'm the only person who will talk about it because I'm a known, critic. So to me, this is really fascinating contextually. The restraining orders, you want to harass people. L. Ron Hubbard said the purpose of the lawsuit is not to win, but to harass. So at some level, at a low level, Scientology will first harass, then it will infiltrate. It will collect email addresses, identities. It will try to get all the information possible. That's why, SirCreptius, if you remember, with Anonymous, they all wore the masks. And Osa was trying to basically say, you guys are cowards. If you were real men, you would man up and demask. But that's because they wanted to get your identity, wanted to get your photographs.
Yeah.
So
Well,
that was taunting. But the fact that the LAPD had undercover vehicles in at the anonymous protest, the Frosty Ice Company truck.
I remember that truck. It was at one of our protests, and I remember that. Yeah. Matter of fact, one of the protesters went right up to the plexiglass and stuck his lens against the plexiglass, which then you can see there are people inside there.
Yeah,
and,
I was there then, and then I was there, and we didn't know each other at the time. And so as soon as the cops got made, they left. They took their Frosty Ice Company truck and left. So now I'm looking at
I was wanting the Frosty Ice.
Huh?
But I was
There was
wanting the
actually
Frosty Ice, so
it was actually an effective decoy. Poe.
Oh yeah,
I mean, like,
let me tell you, we had a guy who was wanted he had warrants for several essays, first degree, both pretty big felonies. We knew he had gone into a house, but we couldn't prove that he was still there. We knew he was staying with these people. So I borrowed a friend's junky old van, put on a Detroit Edison Electric Company jumpsuit, grabbed a clipboard, walked up to the door of the house, knocked on the door, and I said, "Hey folks, we got a problem. There may be a gas leak in this house. So could everybody come out, please? And we need to know for our attorneys who all is in the house, just to make sure everything's going to be safe." Well, people started thinking, "Oh, I can get some money out of this." So everybody came out and gave me their name and everything. The guy comes out and he's like, "Yeah, my name is." "Oh, hello." We took him from that point. So yeah, decoys are not unusual in law enforcement. But Indigo Twin has a interesting question, and SirCreptius is probably be one you could answer the best. Are there different jurisdictions in LA, like in Illinois, there's state police versus sheriffs, and which area can they patrol?
Yeah, so sheriff's departments, well, let's say the LA County Sheriff's Department, we would patrol unincorporated areas of Los Angeles and cities that contract our services. We don't have state police in California. We have the Highway Patrol, which does, of course, they patrol the highways, and also government facilities within California, like the Capitol, political offices, things like that. Police departments are, departments that are created by the city that they're serving. The city runs them. The mayor is the boss.
Yep.
With the sheriff's department, the sheriff is an elected official, and he is, he answers to the people, and more often than not, you might see a sheriff freely expressing themselves when they don't like something that the county board of supervisors wants them to do, and they don't like it, they'll say so. With police chiefs, different story. Very, very political, and police chief doesn't want to do their job.
Yeah.
So
I'll be right back.
Let's see if we have any other questions here. Let's see what starred.
So we have it looks like Clearwater, Chad, and Poe took flight. They left the jurisdiction temporarily.
They got
Good thing
scared.
we have them. We have ankle collars on them. Chad, were you trying to break the ankle collar?
Pretty much, yes.
Not,
Almost
not
got
gonna
it
come
off too.
No, you're not. It's titanium. You're not getting that off.
Oh, okay.
We know where you're at. We have you on
Sorry,
GPS
Roscoe was
tracking.
scratching at the door.
So, so anyway, contextually, it's just interesting to see when you influence a law enforcement agency to do your bidding, and you can engage judge shopping. You can see the sophistication of Scientology's approach. Now, to say it's sophisticated is not to say that it's effective, because Scientology itself has been largely ineffective against the protests. But so they're beginning on the low level to, I believe they've hired some street level thugs, agents provocateur, and then some restraining orders to harass. So you can be sophisticated and yet still be incompetent. And we're seeing that. I don't want to go too far afield, but the Russian army was supposed to be so fearsome. So they're sophisticated, but are they competent? And those two things people don't understand. Mere sophistication doesn't always.
I think it's like in the case of the
a multi-layered approach. I mean,
right.
Everyone froze.
And I think it's like a case right now where we have everyone's talking about the Chinese stealth fighter, the J-20 Dragon, and how they think that's this super fighter and all that, but they're finding out that it's not as good as they say it is. It comes down to two things, like you said. There's the illusion of having technical abilities, and then there's the actual ability to whether or not you can use it. And I think those are things that come into play on that. Keiko K had a question about let's see, there we go. About Sergeant Ventura holding the papers after DOA drove off. They were never handed to him. But what I thought he said when he first said to him is, "You've been served with a restraining order." Is that not what he said?
Yeah, I think that's because the sergeant put the restraining order under the windshield wiper, I believe is what people were saying. And then the sergeant told him face to face that it's a restraining order. I mean,
yeah,
it sucks, but the truth of the matter is, it's a valid service. It's just the way it is.
And Joanna, the thing is that there have been federal civil rights complaints made. It's a matter of whether or not those civil rights complaints are being acted upon. That's why Fat Grammy, Mona, and I had the update talking about the FBI and people actually making reports to the DOJ for failure on the part of the FBI to protect citizens. So that's the things are happening. I've said it many times. A lot of other people have said it. This is not going to be a sprint. This is going to be a marathon. You have to dig your heels in and be prepared. Jeffrey NB, this is a good one. Imagine being the guy who put his camera up to the plexiglass and saw people in there.
Yeah.
That's funny.
It might have been a non-orange or AGP that did that. It was one of the more notable anonymous guys.
Yeah, it may have been a non-orange. Yeah, because when it happened and everyone realized that it's quite something to see.
Yes, it was.
So yeah, this is why, no matter where the footage comes from, the fact that there is so much live coverage and so much footage available presents a problem for the LAPD. It presents a problem for Scientology. And that's why the camera is so important, no matter whose video footage it is and it's live streaming. It's a huge database. And I've studied January 6th, the events of that day, and I'm not making a political statement about it either way. All I'm saying is I've studied the forensics of what happened that day and what the Department of Justice did in tracking down everybody and the enormous amount of forensic effort that went in there. It was interesting to law enforcement and PI community, the lawyers, to see the amount of effort and that went into that. Now, that was an effective effort to identify physically everyone who was there on the Capitol grounds that day. So scale it down to live streaming here at like Celebrity Center, La Poubelle, Pac Base. It's something on the order of that. So, are there civil rights violations? I believe so. Police misconduct, definitely. False arrest, yes. I was going to ask our two retired law enforcement, what happens in a false arrest? What happens to the police officer who made the false arrest? What's the internal process? Like the minute that you realize that you've made a false arrest, what goes on inside the department? Is it an oh shit, like we got a situation? What do they do with the officers or officer involved? What happens? Like in the, just speculate in the case of Aaron, like, dude, you have like a million cameras on you and you arrested this guy. What happens to Timmy Tallman?
I can tell you exactly what happens.
Please. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a California Penal Code. It's 849 subsection B subsection 1. And what that is, it's a penal code that actually gives police officers some protection. Let's say the police officer makes a bad arrest. And they could easily just release the person based on 849B1. And 849B1 basically says that there wasn't sufficient evidence to hold them or to prosecute them. Therefore, you can just release them. And that's how a lot of police departments get away with that. They use 849B1. They release the person, wash their hands, and they're done. So
it'd be like it's just like a legal way to make an immediate problem go away. Because you know what stood out to me in the situation they're in, there wasn't a dispersal order issued. And I wonder, why didn't they issue, like they waited a long time. In my opinion, I'm not a cop, so I defer to you. They should have issued a dispersal order.
Yeah.
Then an arrest would have been more appropriate. You could have arrested people who refused to obey a lawful dispersal order that was read. And you made a remark, SirCreptius, about their statutory language you read. So why did they even issue a dispersal order?
Well,
I mean, was
believe, yeah, off the top of my head, I believe it falls under California Penal Code 409 and 416, if I remember correctly. Yeah, as you said, the dispersal order has very specific language. They pretty much read it off a card. But 409 is the lesser of the two type of dispersal orders, and the dispersal orders are not taken lightly. There has to be certain criteria that has to be met in order for them to legally give a dispersal order. In case of 409 PC, that would be something like if there was imminent harm to property or to people's safety. So let's say there's a protest, it's getting out of control, people are starting to fight. They can go in there with Penal Code 409 and disperse them. Same thing for vandalizing property. And 416 is butt pucker time. That's when everything's gone to hell, and they give that dispersal order. And usually when they go by Penal Code 416, it's usually the batons will start swinging and things are getting crazy. So
Now,
that's when shit gets real, right?
On this, I know here in Michigan, county commissioners are not over a sheriff. The only thing that they have anything to do with it is on budgeting, but the commissioners don't have any authority over the sheriff. Is that the same in California?
Well, we don't think we have county commissioners either. We have commissioners that work in the courts, like the municipal courts, which is basically under a judge. Commissioners are not elected. Judges are elected. But Jeffrey, county commissioner, we don't have a county commissioner.
Let me make a distinction. I think this will help. Los Angeles Police Department has the LAPD Board of Commissioners. So there's police commissioners that have authority over LAPD. Now, when you get the LA Sheriff's Department, you have the LA supervisors. Ultimately, I think the sheriff's an elected official, so this presents a different relationship to the LA County Board of Supervisors, because he can oppose them. He's not because the LA County Sheriff is an elected official. As you mentioned earlier, he's not subordinate to the commissioners, though they can advise. They can also screw around with his budget. That's always a big threat. We're going to pull your funding, Sheriff, if you don't if you don't get in line on this policy we want about enforcement of a particular matter, we're just going to defund you to $50, $75 million and you can deal with it. So that's kind of the balance of power. It depends on the agency, whether a chief of police who is appointed by the mayor can be dismissed at the pleasure of the mayor, just like that. They serve at the will and pleasure of the mayor, they can be dismissed. So it depends, the particular political structure, but it usually can always, the political officials can always pull funding or give funding. And that's how they kind of control police departments. And you guys know that, you're retired cops. When your budget gets cut or they give you more, or they make a decision like the U.S. military after Afghanistan was giving, in Iraq, they were giving police departments all over the U.S. all this military grade equipment. And there was a lot of the police departments, the smaller ones, were wanting to get all the military equipment they could get, armored personnel carriers and such, special boats, like everyone, they wanted all that stuff. But some of the elected officials didn't want them to have the view of their police departments as being militarized. So it gets into all kinds of things. But LAPD is always an adopter of the military level of equipment to the extent, their LAPD was designed by Chief Gates, to be, it was redesigned to be a highly mobilized strike force. And unlike other traditional policing, LAPD has the ability, when Gates reinvented it, to bring a lot of police power to one place all at once. Because that happened as partly as an outcome of the Rodney King riots, where the riots built and there wasn't a high concentration of police power, and it got out of hand.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
So policing all over the U.S. is different. But why I study it here, I'm a resident of Los Angeles, and I have respect for the police, but not, and there's always been going to be bad cops, but I'm interested when they get dirty or in bed with Scientology, then it presents civil rights. It could go to the Department of Justice. It could go to the FBI. A lot of bad things could happen if LAPD overplays its hand, which I think it has. And so the LAPD knows it can overplay its hand, and that there could become lawsuits, and they can't. Maybe a false arrest can be, they can get out of it by this PC, the penal code you cited, SirCreptius.
Yes.
So, but it's just trying to watch as an evolving situation.
And I've got a number of questions here that I've stirred up. I want to start hitting into those. Matt Elliott, MMA, SPTV Canada. I always say MMA for some reason. Scientology is paying one of the guy's legal fees. If that isn't a conflict of interest, along with a judge who signed it being connected to Scientology, is just brutal. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it's worth investigating.
Paying fees.
Yeah, I had heard that. I'm glad he brought that up. Yeah, that bears investigation. What is, is this person a Scientology operative contractor? Because Scientology wouldn't pay it unless they had some liability. They had some reason to cover their ass. Yeah. So that would be my suspicion, is that this guy is connected to Scientology as an operative.
Okay. And Denise H. asks, was it the same judge that signed the TROs? The judge for Danny was featured in Scientology magazine?
Yes.
Oh, Diaz?
Yep.
Okay.
Rudolph Diaz.
Let's see here. Nebulous, nothing to do with mysterious Scientology kiosk placement at LAPD station in the past. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I worked with American Atheists. They filed a lawsuit that got those taken down. I have a podcast with the president of American Atheists.
That's wild. DJ Goldenheart 69. None of us said that the judge was a Scientologist, but we're questioning the fact the judge was featured in Freedom Magazine.
Well,
so that
you could call him Scientology adjacent judge. An SAJ.
Yeah.
Joined at the hip there. Let's see. When they get to court, could they, Daniel and DOA, ask for a different judge? I believe that that's one of their rights, is that they can ask for a judge to recuse themselves or recuse whatever, and ask for a different judge to handle their case.
They'd have to give good cause, but they can ask. Yeah.
I'm wondering if that, write-ups in Freedom Magazine might be a good example of it.
Yeah, I would definitely introduce that immediately. I would get that into the court record as fast as possible, even into the pretrial.
Excellent advice. Indigo Twin, this is so fascinating because judge buying is something that is common in Chicago from back in the mob days. Church of Scientology seems to be cultist, but also sort of like the mob. I think that's a very interesting point there.
It is. That's a great point, Indigo Twin. They are a cultic mafia. It's because you have made men, so to speak. The inner circle, and David Miscavige would be the godfather. His attorney Monique Yingling would be the consigliere. I have a wall chart on my blog and I show it how exactly you have capos, enforcers. And I made a chart like in 2015. And it shows just a classic. I took an FBI chart of how crime families are organized, and I just mapped it onto Scientology, and it fits so perfectly. So,
let's see. And the next one, and I think this one would be Jeffrey. You'd said you're going to look into it. Do we know if Judge Diaz ever sentenced anyone to Narconon? So,
Adam, I like that question because it sounds like a penalty. I'm sentencing you to Narconon. It'd be like, Your Honor, can you just give me county jail instead? The niacin will kill me. That's cruel and unusual punishment, Your Honor.
Yeah, and
You're
when people go
Narconon.
I'm sorry. Yeah, when people go to Narconon or a drug program, it's an alternative to jail time. That's what it is. They're not being sentenced to Narconon. They're just doing that voluntarily in lieu of going to jail. I mean, I guess it's similar to a sentence, but it's really not a sentence.
Punishment would be like a cruel and unusual punishment would be sentenced to having to read Dianetics.
Yeah, diabetics.
Form 13909. In a lot of jurisdictions, each side can bump one judge even without cause. If you ask right away, I would check California court rules.
Yeah, that's that 20-day rule. Yeah.
And that's out of my wheelhouse. That's something an attorney or someone like you, Jeff, would know.
Well, I just know it from an attorney. I'm not an attorney, but I work with a lot of really good attorneys. So there's that 20-day rule.
Well, that's why I'm saying somebody like you, because you're well knowledged on this. Is it best to have location services and tracking turned off on your phone?
Well, I think it is, but with a cell phones, with the Stingray, this thing that spoofs the cell phone tower, it's still going to get, as long as you're emitting signal frequency, RF, they can get your phone. So, look, if you're going to protest, life is not without risks. If they know who you are, to me, it's a BFD. Got the acronym for that, right? To me,
I'm sorry, Jeff.
To me, it's a BFD if they know who I am. So I always tell people, look, decide what's appropriate in your case. If you're especially if you're raising kids, you got a job, don't protest. Put your family first. If you feel any anxiety or stress, don't do it. Stay online, be anonymous, because there's definitely the means to get your phone. I mean, you really have to not even take your phone or put it in a special bag, because if they can get just a little bit of radio frequency, they can, and a photo of you. If you go out to a protest, there's a high likelihood a trained person can find out who you are pretty quickly. So you decide, you have to do your own risk assessment for yourself and decide what you want to do with your freedom of speech. Is your activism better served anonymously online, or are you going to be out front and center? So that's a personal decision, but they can get your phone.
As long as it's transmitting, my understanding, as long as it's transmitting, they can get the signal. And if they can get the signal, they can get into it.
Yeah, with that device, yeah.
And here we go. Fred Dent, on the TROs against Danny and DOA, they had Kenneth Moxon as the attorney, but they say the people wanting the TRO aren't Scientologists. Can either of you explain who Kenneth Moxon is to those who don't know?
Jeffrey, you're old school. You go for it.
This is Rick Moxon. or Ken Moxon. He goes by Rick Moxon with his friends. He has been a long-time attorney for the Church of Scientology. He was an unindicted co-conspirator in Operation Snow White. So it's sort of he's an in-house. Well, he has his own firm, but he's in-house, and he's a longtime Scientologist. If you Google Carla Moxon, his wife, Carla, Carla Moxon on YouTube, you'll see her talking at a Scientology Toastmaster event where you give speeches, and she's talking about she and Ken sitting out seeing flying saucers one night. Quite kookily charming, but Ken's a dirty, nasty piece of work. And one time I was down at criminal court, and I forget what hearing it was, but I'm leaving. I'm wearing a suit, and I see Ken Moxon dragging in a Sea Org member into criminal court. And he's looking pissed, and I don't know what that was about. But Ken's dragging in a Sea Org member for God knows what. It's an amusing story. I won't get to that. Anyway, I got a lot of stories.
Yeah, I got one. Go ahead, SirCreptius. Didn't you have something you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, Moxon.
Yeah. So it didn't pop up on your chat for some reason, but yeah, Mandy Beach. She asked a question earlier, and I apologize, Mandy, for not seeing it sooner. But Mandy's question is, what does Agent Augustine think about cell phone jammers, and can he say his channel again? Also, thank you at SirCreptius.
And well, I think Sunrise Dawn has been putting your link in there. So
where's that comment at?
Yeah, it's unfortunately on my chat, but it didn't pop up in those for some reason.
Cell phone jamming is illegal. I think they're doing it. I have some.
Well, I brought that up in a live just recently about how it was interesting that DOA, JDSA, were having great streams, and then suddenly they started experiencing a lot of difficulty in getting their signal out. You'd constantly get that rotating symbol on there. And I thought it was really interesting that, you had JDSA was in Colorado and then in Salt Lake City not having these problems, but ended up in LA near Big Blue, and suddenly he can't get a signal out. And then DOA was experiencing the same things. And I think there were other streamers that were out there doing live streams that were having problems with that. So, talking about thinking that there possibly was, that's why I had to do that live stream, because it's just really odd and doesn't seem to be, I don't believe in coincidences in these kinds of situations where you have something like that happening.
No, I think they've been doing it. And I've been taking a lot of photographs of devices. If you put in spoofing cell phone towers, look, I have experts to work with, electronic experts to work with. And so that's why I'm taking pictures of a lot of types of antennas and towers, and then I give them to experts to say, yeah, that's one of them. And I'm not going to disclose locations or what I found, but if you take a lot of photographs, I was just out the other night, and look, OSA knows this because they see me. They have cameras all over Pack Base. I'm photographing infrastructure, antennas. I'm measuring frequencies. And I said this to OSA. They listen to everything. We're going to find out what you're doing. A lot of it's already mapped. It may not go anywhere, but it's going to be in a database online. So, and it already is. It's on a guarded database. So, like I said, that's why when you go out, I personally don't care if Scientology knows who I am. I'm not worried. And, you can always get a burner phone. Don't bring your real phone. Just get a burner phone. Those are easy enough to get. So that the more appropriate measure, because you need a phone. So just take a burner phone, Yeah.
And Jeffrey, you might know more about this, but isn't it illegal in the United States to use or sell or possess or purchase a cell jammer?
Yes, but when is but when has the idea of committing a crime ever stopped Scientology? It's illegal to cover up felony essays, and they did that in the Masterson case for a long time. So the law,
Miriam Francis,
the law means exactly F all nothing to Scientology. So because L. Ron Hubbard wrote, quote, someday somebody will say this is illegal. By then, make sure it's Scientology, unquote. So Scientology believes it's above WOG law. So it's like, if that's why they hire these throwaway assets, these dirty PIs, because there was a PI who hacked Mike Rinder's cell phone and Tony Ortega's cell phone. Sala de Guerra was his last name. He went to jail in New York. Mike Rinder and Tony Ortega, they were hacked. Sala de Guerra took the hit. Church didn't know anything about it, though he was hired at a remove through an attorney, through a PI firm. So they just have these throwaway goons who will take money. And if they get caught hacking, then Scientology goes, we didn't know. We hired this attorney who hired someone we don't know. So they have deniability when they commit the crimes, except in cases like Masterson or Miriam, to your point.
And on this question from KA, why would they keep a person's phone number and computer for so long if the person was released without charges? I can tell you right now, in pretty much every law enforcement agency, government agency I've ever seen, it doesn't matter if you're criminally charged, if you're not charged, but if your information goes in that system, unless a judge comes in and says it has to be removed, it stays there because it's a point of contact. So it doesn't matter what the circumstance is. You could be a witness to something and it'll end up in there. Go ahead, SirCreptius.
Yeah, and I think what her question is, we might have a little bit of a misunderstanding. I believe LAPD took phone and computer from DOA during one of their false arrests, and they still possess it. And so usually when that happens, it's because they're still investigating the case. Lots of times they'll release a person without charges, pending further investigation. So if they've taken somebody's property as evidence, they'll hold on to that evidence until the case is closed. And yeah, that could very well likely be the reason that they're still holding his property. Hopefully that answered your question.
All right, let's see here. I got some more for us. I thought this was a really interesting one. Has anyone worked with the Social Security Administration to track financial abuses of older adults in Scientology? I thought that was an excellent question.
That is a great question.
Yeah, that is. No one that I know of. I don't know of anyone who's done that, but that would be a great cause for somebody to take on.
I am really interested in that question and seeing it get pushed on to the right people. Mike Branson, what about a Faraday pouch? Useless for cell phones? Useful or useless for cell phones?
Oh, they're useful. Dusty Soda Dispenser saying, so should we use a burner phone when we live near a Scientology building? I would. I definitely would. Yeah, I definitely would.
And I can tell you, I went and saw Joe Rogan recently live, and they made us put our cell phones in basically a Faraday pouch for the entire show. And you couldn't get that pouch open until after you left, and they had to use some special magnet thing or something like that, like they used to take off the scanners for retail fraud kind of stuff. And I'm telling you, you didn't get a signal. You got nothing through those pouches. So I would say a Faraday pouch is a pretty useful thing if you're trying to keep your phone safe.
Yeah, when during the Masterson trial, he was on the 9th floor criminal court, and the 9th floor of criminal court downtown, it has its own check, and it's where all the high-profile cases. Charles Manson was tried on the 9th floor, so there's a 1 degree of separation between Danny Masterson and Manson, tried on the same floor. But you had to take out your phone and turn it off and put it into one of those pouches.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
they do work.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
There's a question. I'm unable to start. I apologize. If you just scroll up just a teensy bit, Sherry Yelverton asked a question about with or without prejudice. I'd like to answer.
Let me see here. You said, oh, there we go. There we go. Sir, they are using the excuse without prejudice to file charges later, hence keeping evidence. Go ahead.
So the term with prejudice or without prejudice is something that happens in the court. That has nothing to do with the police department. The DOA's case, probably, they released him pending further investigation. They have a whole year to file the case. So if they're still investigating it, they can justify holding on to the evidence until the case is closed. In terms of with or without prejudice, yeah, that's a court term used for when charges are dropped.
Yeah, that's primarily for, I believe it's with prejudice means that they cannot bring the charges back against you. Without prejudice means that they can. But I can tell you right now, if a law enforcement agency, if they want to hold on to something like that as evidence, all they got to say is we're in a continuing investigation into this, and that is part of the evidence for that case. And oftentimes, unless you can go in front of a judge and the judge can say, prove to me why you need that, why you need it now, and the person can't have it back, most times you're not going to get it until they're done with it. So it does happen. And, and just like with anything in this world, if there's something that can be used by a shady person or someone who's corrupt, they'll do it. It's that simple. CT says people resist accepting it, but if law enforcement wants to track a smartphone, it's trivial to do so, even with location turned off, even without a SIM. I can tell you that myself because they use that wonderful little thing of triangulation through cell towers. So the minute that your phone goes through there and any kind of signal goes to those towers, which the thing is that those phones are always transmitting a signal at one time or another. So all they got to do is that number is going to show up in there, or the code for that phone or whatever, and that's how they can track you. So, a lot of people think if I turn my location off, then they can't track me. No,
they're gonna get your phone. Let me share a screen. Yeah, that's the reality. I mean, there's ways around it, like with a throwaway burner phone, a pocket telex in the case of Scientology. I wonder if they have pocket telexes. Let me share this screen. Okay. Since this is public, I'm not going to show. Okay, so there's the layout, and so there's legitimate uses, but this is basically the layout. Cell phone tower. So you call. There's a GPS. There's a satellite. You have a known location.
That's what I wanted to bring up was the 911 thing is something that's constantly transmitting, if I remember correctly, with cell phones. Is that you always, that was something the federal government put in act decades ago, where your cell phone, even if it's not under a service plan, it's just a block of plastic with a battery in it, and you use it because you go to Starbucks or someplace like that, and you use their Wi-Fi and you can go on their Wi-Fi with it. That phone still has to have the 911 emergency enabled on it by law. So that is constantly hitting the towers, and basically it's sending a signal so that the phone knows it's active and where it can get its next signal from to send out a 911 call if needed. So that's a very real thing.
Now, if you look in the upper left-hand corner of the cell phone and you see the green arrow, it says call data.
Yep.
Going to the cell phone tower. Now, a cell phone, a stingray device, as they call it, you just put it in the middle of that green line and it spoofs. So your call data is still going to go to the cell phone tower, but first it's going to go through a spoof, and they're going to get this same data. So the comment, depressing as it is, if they want to get your information, they can get it. Yeah. And that's just something to be aware of when we're dealing with a cult who's willing to go across the line. If they get your cell phone data, they get your cell phone data. Yeah. What the heck is a Faraday pouch? You should know about it. Knowledge is power. It's basically
first off, Cheryl, it has nothing to do with a drum circle or Burning Man. So
or your can.
One reason why. Or what?
Or your can.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Go ahead, Jeffrey, if you want to explain that. You're more technical on these things than I am.
Michael Faraday was a 19th century scientist, and he would build a Faraday cage. It's basically a way to it shields RF emissions. So if there's a metal in it, and it just encloses the radio emissions, they can't go out. Radio waves propagate, waveform propagation, so it just locks the radio frequency emission. You turn off the phone, put it in the bag, and no radio frequency signal can be emitted. That's all. It's like
And
putting your cell phone into a metal cocoon.
that's
Yeah.
right, Mona. I beat you on that one. So let's see. Now, Pinche Becky was asking if anyone had ever been convicted of, well, let me get it up here. Has any Scientologist ever been convicted of phone tapping or illegally recording phone calls?
The one private investigator, Saldaguerra, was, and I don't know of any others. I don't know of any immediately, and they usually use they would use black hats, hackers in Russia, Eastern Europe. They would use offshore hackers to do it.
How about in Operation Snow White? Because I know that some of the IRS phones were tapped, weren't they?
Yeah, in Operation Snow White, they did do wiretaps, but the felons in that case, they never pled guilty. They just signed a stipulation of evidence. So they weren't technically convicted. They took a plea deal in which they signed a stipulation, and that might be good. I could bring up that stipulation of evidence. But yes, the Guardian's office did engage in wiretapping. Yeah, and back then it was easy to wiretap copper phones. It's really simple to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get through to see what other and folks, if you have a question or comment, please begin them with question or comment in all caps. That way it's easier to differentiate between the conversations going on and everything.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Good point.
And we got that other subject to talk about too, I think.
Yeah.
And let's see.
Well, again, it all comes down to you making a risk assessment. Bring a burner phone, Faraday bag, because you just make your own personal risk assessment. Look, Google has more information on you than Scientology. Amazon. Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Google, Amazon, Apple, they're not your friends. Their business is to collect all your information, your browsing habits. Google knows more about you than Scientology.
Well, I mean, to give you a perfect example, we went to a big chain store here, and before we went there, we had actually looked things up online. When we got there, suddenly my wife's phone starts pinging with, "Hey, this product is over here. We noticed that you were recently looking for it."
I hate
Folks,
that happens to me.
I mean, when you look at organizations like Facebook, when they admit they're not there for being a social media company, but they're there as you're not the customer, you are the product, and what they're selling is information collected from what you're looking up, things like that. That's where the real money is nowadays in this stuff.
Well, yeah,
selling is in the data collection.
Yeah, selling information, and so, like I said, given our society, Scientology maybe will cross criminal lines, but if you're online shopping, I've had that happen. Karen and I had that happen. We're looking for something, and then it's on our phone as an ad. Oh, by the way, Chad, I wanted to just let you know. Can you see this? Auditors are wanted. Now, I think if you got a haircut, doesn't that look like Chad with a beard?
Maybe.
Chad, do you want to tell us about
glasses?
I'll get some intelligence on,
well, I just got some junk mail. So auditors are wanted. I just want to take a break here.
And Scotty Millhouse has a good point. Turn your phone off before and putting it into a Faraday bag. Your phone's going to go crazy trying to find service from a tower.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Scotty. Yeah, thank you, Scotty. That's very good advice. Thank you. Glad we have technical people.
I wanted to add a little something about the tracking. I work. Well, you guys know I work 2 jobs. One of them is retail, and basically, Google was setting up this big thing in the store that I work at. So we asked the guy what it does, and he says when people are entering the store, they know Google knows the layout of the store and where the products are, and they know how many seconds that you're near a certain product.
Jeez.
Absolutely, I've seen that. Yeah. So
product proximity.
And Julie Markham, I've never gotten anything like that on my phone that would creep me out so badly. It's a reality. Yeah. It does happen. And a lot of these companies, they don't even hide it. They just put it out there. Let's see. Yeah. A lot of people say that Alexa is constantly whatever that Alexa thing is. I won't allow it in my house, but from what I've heard, it's constantly monitoring what is being said and what's going on in your home.
Yeah, it does. That's scary to me. Yeah.
Here's a good question from General Boa. Is there a way to mess with or block their equipment? And would that be legal?
Well, I think protest signs, like I actually had a Scientologist, former SEER member, tell me when they saw the sign, "Does David Miscavige or David Miscavige beats his staff?" Look, protesting is more effective. Don't cross the line into illegality. If it's like I'm just doing passive legal monitoring. I wouldn't take any active measures to do anything. That would be adverse to my own self-interest to break the law. So First Amendment rights, protesting is sufficiently powerful in and of itself, live streaming, legal stuff. And then what are you going to block? Scientology uses like emails about production stats. Like there's no point in breaking the law to do anything. And so I just like nonviolent, peaceful protests.
Yeah. And Scooter Mom, it just happened to her yesterday. I looked at a website on my computer, and since then my phone keeps showing me ads for that store. That's because they interconnect. Your email connects to you. If you go on your email on your phone, it connects it. If you're using Google on your phone and using Google on your computer and logging in through both of those, that it's all interconnected. They had a thing where I would take a photograph and it would instantly go right into my wife's photo files on her phone. And we had to turn that off because, I take photographs of stuff that I make with a laser and all these different things. And she's like, "You're killing my memory on my phone." And I'm like, well, we had to figure out how to stop it. Let's see. Yeah. And here's another one, Indigo Twin. There's also the Apple security robot, which has facial recognition software. What can do what Alexis does, and can do what Alexis does as well. And that's Alexa. Whoa. Maria Louise, my Alexa woke me up one night talking because I was talking in my sleep. I thought someone was in my room. These are all things that are very interesting.
Yeah. But you know what? But Google and Amazon, Apple, they want to sell you stuff. They don't want to like fair game you.
Right.
Yeah. Harass
that's what
you.
it's for.
It's I've never had Jeff Bezos follow me home to harass me.
Yeah.
And I'm an Amazon customer. So that's the difference. They're trying to sell you stuff and lots of it, but they don't follow you home and harass you or, drown your dogs, take your children into cults and things like that.
And Mike, since they tried hacking my computer, the person who, and I'll put it up there because I think it's hilarious, but I have a virtual desktop now that anyone who tries to hack into my computer is taken to, and it just randomly goes to the craziest, most stupid things all day long. So yeah, there are several sites out there that do that.
Yeah, you can create a virtual machine. There's a guy on YouTube who scams the scammers.
Yep. Michael Brown, isn't it?
A couple of them, but one big one, I forget his name, but he's funnier than hell. And he's created a virtual machine, which I want to do. I think it'd be a lot of fun to create a virtual machine.
And
it looks like a Scientology website.
Can you use the Bain Act against Scientology for blocking the protesters' First Amendment rights?
We would need a lawyer to answer that, a civil rights lawyer. That's a great question, but I don't know how to answer it. I'm not qualified.
Yeah, I have no idea.
See, this is where it's the audience. Oh yes, it's Kit Boga, Sarah. It's Kit Boga.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, it's normally Mischief Managed or Miss Sunrise Dawn are always in there. I'll say, there was this one time, and next thing I know, they've got the answer up before I even finish the question.
Well, this is why it's great to interact live with an audience. There's so many great people out there.
Yeah.
You can literally like our live streaming audience is like having a personal Google tailored just for us.
Yeah. Yeah. The one of them does it where they're constantly acting like they're crying, and they, that that just wears on my nerves a bit. But I like the one, I think it's Jim Brown or Michael Brown or something like that, where he's the one who actually hacks into their computers and shows everything that's going on within the call centers and those scammer centers and everything like that.
Yeah,
So,
Boga does that too. He takes over their computers, and then he destroys their customer base. So
Scammer Payback is pierogi. So
Yeah, it's a good show.
I've watched them. I mean, that's huge channels now. So
now it says let me end with the Bain Act, California Civil Code 52.1, also known as the Tom Bain Civil Rights Act, is a civil code in California law that forbids people from interfering with a person's constitutional rights by force or threat of violence. So that's a very good question. We should look into Bain Act complaints.
No, the Roomba.
I heard that too.
They're mapping your house.
Yeah.
But how are cats going to ride around the house if they don't have a Roomba?
Mm-hmm.
Come on now. Oh man,
that's wild. They're mapping your house.
It's like they say, everybody's so focused on TikTok and all that about what it's doing, but they don't talk about the fact that you have, all these different sites here in the US that are skimming information as well, collecting information on you and all those things. The big difference is that, there's question as to whether or not TikTok, the original base programming, can get into things like your financial information and things like that through connections on your phone, plus the possible connection with the Chinese Communist Party. So there's a lot of question, but you got to remember, it's not just scammers coming from India. It's not just scammers coming from China, or Russia. We have American companies that are skimming your information. This is an epidemic that goes throughout the technology industry. It's that simple. So a lot of these things, there's things that you need to ask an attorney for, because some of this stuff is way over my pay scale. What are your thoughts on VPNs, Jeff?
Oh, I think you should definitely use them when you're online. Yeah. I do what's called dumpster diving. That's when I go look at Scientology websites.
Mm-hmm.
And so, because you have to look at what the other site has. They're the enemy. So I go on Scientology websites and I like track their moving storylines and content. In fact, the other night I just took my readers through 24 hours of Scientology TV of repetitive, boring nonsense. And but I always use a VPN. I do use, someone mentioned in the comments, DuckDuckGo. I use that browser. I use a VPN. So I do that online just because it makes sense. I still get pop-up ads, but DuckDuckGo is pretty good. I use NordVPN. So there's a lot of good VPNs out there. And then I use encrypted Signal, WhatsApp. I think for any day-to-day stuff, I just use my phone and my Gmail, right? But important stuff, it's all verbal. I never put anything in writing. I don't think you should ever put anything in writing. And then I also use an encrypted app. So if you have if I wanted to have an important meeting with SirCreptius, we would meet somewhere at an undisclosed location, and we would talk. Nothing would go in writing. And that just makes sense, And remember the old comedy from the 60s, Get Smart? They had the cone of silence that lowered down over people. Well, I think if you want to meet someone, go meet at a Starbucks somewhere. And I like to meet like remote locations. And that way, if you're being followed. If you're going to go out to, I was out in Baker recently on a case, Baker, California, which is almost near California state line on the way to Vegas. And I was working a case, but I'll go way out of my way for a private meeting that's nonverbal. I'll leave my cell phone either in a bag in the car, or I'll just bring one of my other phones. So there's, you decide on level of security. But I'm not, take all cautions. So yeah, I do like VPNs. Yes.
And let me also tell you, folks, they have ways of making you turn on your location and things like that. You want to use your device's mapping information. Say you need to get directions to somewhere and you have your location turned off. Your phone's going to tell you, we can't do that because we don't know where you are. So you have to turn that on to use things like that. And if you don't think that your phone does those things to you, see how often you get messages from Google or you get emails from them saying, hey, you were just at this place. What did you think about it? Leave a review. Those kinds of things. That tells you that one way or another, it all gets filtered.
Well, Poe, you can always, you can buy 2 cell phones, okay? And you put one in the name of a company. I mean, it goes to your card, or you get a business card. You can always own 2 cell phones or 3 cell phones or 4 cell phones. And you use a dedicated one when you're on the road. And then you have your private one. So you can own more than one of the ways to get around it is own more than 1 cell phone.
Well, so SirCreptius, what was the general thought on someone who had more than 1 cell phone?
Yeah, sometimes it would raise a little red flag, as if there may be some kind of narcotics activity going on, for example.
Well, if you don't, it's like I'm the kind of guy who's like, hey,
I'm joking.
I'm not gonna. No, I know what you're saying. You don't carry all 4 cell phones at once, okay? Yeah. It's like in the 90s, if you had 3 pagers, like you were probably selling nose candy. No, it's like I'm the kind of guy, if I got pulled over, well, first I have a PI ID. Not everyone does, but if I got pulled over even without my ID, you'd be like, search my car, search me. I got nothing to hide. So, but yeah, I know if you're carrying a lot of cell phones and you have like $10,000 in cash, questions could be raised.
And here's an interesting question. Can Scientology get your info if you purchase a book using a debit card within their building? I would say online as well.
Yeah, if you give them credit card information, yeah, any vendor can. If you go into Best Buy, if you go into a restaurant, anytime you use that card to buy gas. So, I mean, our conversation, like we've expanded out to the culture and society in which we live, tracks all your information. Scientology specifically will do that. So that's a reflection of the technological society in which we live, but they're doing it for malicious purposes.
And here's a question relating right to that. Do you think Scientology are being fed information on the protesters by LAPD based on their financial ties?
I would say that Scientology's private contractors, if Talon still has the contract, would compare notes with LAPD. And I would say that they probably have some attorneys trying to build a case that these are an organized hate group, the live streamers. They're going to try to characterize freedom of speech as hate speech. So they're going to do all kinds of things. I wouldn't be surprised if they're down comparing notes at some level. It wouldn't surprise me.
And think about this also. You call the police, you make a formal criminal complaint against someone. The police make contact with that person, get their information in connection with an investigation into a possible crime. That goes into a police complaint. And how often is that information available, SirCreptius?
I'm sorry, I was reading a comment right there. I apologize. Okay. What was the question?
If say Scientology has one of their org members or something like that, make a criminal complaint against one of the protesters. The police make contact with that protester, get their information based on an investigation that they're doing, and they turn around. How soon will that be available publicly, so that if even without having to have their digs in with LAPD, how soon would that be available for, say, Scientology to get a copy of that report with the information?
Departments vary. I know with LA County Sheriff's Department, it was about 7 days, 7 to 10 days, business days. LAPD, is it the same, Jeffrey? Do you know?
I don't know. I mean, I could go. By the way, I have on my blog at LAPD operations manual posted. I think I posted it last month. There's a lot you can learn about LAPD just from its public policy manual. So I'll look in the policy manual, but it's amazing when you read their field operations policies. So much of it they've had to make after the Rampart scandal, Rodney King. they've had to make a lot of, and this is good law, they had to make a lot of their operations, field operations, public, which I'm really glad. I like transparency in policing. I know there's times where there's secrecy, but generally, I'm glad they do it. I don't know the exact time. I think it's faster, SirCreptius. I'll ask. I have some friends in LAPD. I'll ask.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With LA County Sheriff, yeah, it's generally 7 days.
Yeah.
And it was about the same with my department. Haggish Basher, SirCreptius, you saw MD Media's video today with them flipping around lots of paperwork. It made me wonder if they were either faking the permits again or giving them pre-signed PPAs on protesters.
Yeah, actually, I haven't seen that video yet. I was trying to watch one of his videos. I had to cut it short because I had business to attend to. But yeah, if it looked like he was looking for something in particular, yeah, he in terms of PPAs, yeah, if he had a stack of PPAs pre-filled out for individual protesters, and they were trying to place somebody under private person's arrest, yeah, I could see them thumbing through the papers looking for the right one. But yeah, it's possible.
And folks, I'd like to remind folks, if you are in here, you're making negative comments about other streamers, or you're making comments about a particular streamer, that's not what this is about. Okay. We try to keep it civil in our chat. We try to keep it on a positive level. I know the mods have put it out there several times about things like this, folks. Please don't make one of the mods have to end up removing you from the channel or removing your comments, things like that. This isn't about coming in here and going after each other. We're trying to have a legitimate talk about things that are going on in the fight about Scientology. So let's see.
Hey, can you take David B's question, considering everything you're talking about?
I was getting ready to flag that one.
Thank you.
There you go.
I'd like to speak to that, David B.
And the question is, considering everything you're talking about are constitutional concerns, why hasn't Maine DOJ intervened?
Well, what I would say is, how do you know that they haven't? How do you know that there's not active DOJ investigation of LAPD? I'm just putting that out there. You don't know that they haven't, and you won't know that they haven't. Because, and I'll just tell you again, open source intelligence community has ties to DOJ. And so you don't know what DOJ is doing. That's something the LAPD and Scientology should be concerned about when you have a lot of people who are in the shadows mapping things, tracking things, counting things, investigating things. You don't know that they haven't. So I wanted to leave there to say you don't know, because when the DOJ does stuff, or the FBI, you don't know about it. And Scientology may not know about it. For all we know, next week there could be the execution of a search warrant for Incom, located at L. Ron Hubbard Way and Fountain underground. That thing lights up like a Christmas tree, by the way, when you put one of these things next to it. So I'm not confirming or denying anything. I'm not in a position to, but we don't know that they haven't. But you make a good. Doesn't it take a long time for DOJ to make their case a solid case? It depends on the crime. Bridge, can you bring up Bridge 1872?
Let me find it.
You guys who are retired cops, I'd like to take this one as well. If
SirCreptius, if you want to start off on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bridge 1872 is asking, doesn't it take a long time for DOJ to make their case a solid case? And yeah, it could take years. Many years in some cases, depending on what they're investigating.
And I can tell you from my own personal experience and having spoken with FBI agents, DEA, the different feds, that it's not uncommon for them to build a case, have everything that they need in that case, and then basically pigeonhole it for a year or two, let the person think everything's okay, and then come back and surprise them with an indictment. It is not uncommon at all. So, they could say, we don't know about anything that's going on. If there is or isn't a possible case, we can't talk about that right now. And then here it is. They've been investigating it for 2 or 3 years and then come out and next thing you know, they got an indictment. Chad, how long did it take for your indictment?
Almost 3 years
one?
ago.
Yeah.
What's that?
I know.
Hey,
Almost
Yeah.
Jeffrey. Yeah, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
You would think, if DOJ were investigating Scientology, that would be probably a very lengthy, difficult investigation, right?
It's not. It would be length. It could be lengthy. Difficult, not really, because the structure. Once you understand the structure of Scientology, Scientology wants to appear mysterious, but it's really easy. We could do a show in 10 minutes. I could explain to you. Once you understand the corporate structure and how it works, it's easy to understand. And especially when you have former members telling you exactly how it works. That's why blown Sea Org members are so valuable. So the money is easy to follow in the US. But some of the internal stuff is more complex. So it just depends on the nature of the specific alleged crime they're investigating. Is it financial? Is it an essay? There's a lot of questions, statutes of limitations. But to Poe's point, the government tends to take their time because they like tomorrow on June 10 in Brooklyn, Eastern District, New York, federal court, the trial of Scientologist David Gentili and his co-defendant Jeffrey Schneider, $1.7 billion Ponzi scheme, GPP Capital starts. That took 5 years to bring to trial, but it's going to be a monster case. So jury selection starts tomorrow. So it can take a long time. Sometimes, though, it's like SirCreptius and Poe. You guys have seen it like where a case goes that fast, where like you practically find the mafia through a parking ticket, right? Sure. Some things go really fast because sometimes criminals really are stupid and they mess up or they get greedy or they get violent and you got an instant arrest, right? So if they F up, you can get them pretty quickly. So it just depends on what they're up to and what the feds are looking for. It's a contextual question.
Well, there's also been, I've seen it many times. I don't know what they call it in California, but they have what are called pocket warrants, where a person has a warrant, and 9 times out of 10, it is a very minuscule, minor kind of warrant. It's a very small misdemeanor. And instead of just going right out and arresting the person, they, the officers do what they pocket it. And then when they have when they need a reason to arrest that person or something's going on, that's when they pull the warrant out. Now, I know you've probably seen that out in Cali, haven't you, SirCreptius?
Yeah. These small minuscule warrants, every station has clerks that go through these warrants when they come off the teletypes. And, these small warrants for a city, they'll put them in a stack in a tray. And when deputies go out in the field, they can just grab a stack and go try to find these people. They'll go to their houses, try to locate them and try to arrest them. But yeah.
And here's the question, Jeffrey, do you, it says, do you any human rights or constitutional laws? I think do you know any human rights or constitutional laws that would go against the ridiculous arbitration that trafficking victims have in court now?
The question is, would child trafficking as a crime, if it could be criminally charged, it would defeat any arbitration, because arbitration is not a barrier to criminal prosecution whatsoever.
But I also think that it has to be a matter of a judge is going to, that a judge will actually accept that that's a case. I mean, you have the position with this one judge is basically like, nothing I can do. And I know that judges in lower courts oftentimes will side on what is the easiest route for them because they know it's going to be appealed and it's going to go to a higher court. And their ideology is let the higher court handle all the headaches on it. So
well, maybe, but we're talking about where there's an what goes on in Scientology with children is criminal, I think. Now they're hiding behind First Amendment. They're trying to hide behind First Amendment. So this is something that's developing, and I think it's a really potent area of legal attack against the church is what they do with children, especially making young teenagers, in case of what Serge is talking about, kids in hotels as auditors listening to horrendous adult sexual content.
Yeah.
That should be felony. So that's a developing intersection of First Amendment religious rights versus sexual or abuse of children by making them listen to adult content and auditing. So I think Serge has reached a very interesting intersection that we need lawyers on, people a lot smarter than us. And so I can't answer the question other than to say, going forward, I think this is the most potent area of attacking Scientology's religious tax exemption, to force them to make auditors be over the age of 21 or 18, and removing children out of the equation. One of the problems of religion in America, and we're getting a little bit in the weeds, but this is important. The Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe in blood transfusions.
Right.
And in 38 states, if you're a Jehovah's Witness parent or parents, and you refuse to allow your child to have a blood transfusion and they die as a result of your religious beliefs, 38 states give you immunity from criminal charges. To me, that's appalling. You can actually kill your child by refusing them life-saving medical blood transfusion, and you have immunity from murder charges or depraved indifference, criminal, whatever charge you want to call it. So we're at this tangle where if you are born into a cult or a Jehovah's Witness, whatever, and horrendous things happen to you, this is why I think the next area of law has to be children can't consent. So therefore they shouldn't have burdens imposed on them, like their parents should not be allowed to decide to deprive them of medical treatment like a blood transfusion or subject them to things that happen in Scientology. So the protection of children would trump First Amendment exercise of religion. And then you have parental rights going in there. So this is very complex. It's maybe a different show to talk about with some attorneys, some heavyweights. So you have a lot of things in there that make it not so easy. And then Scientology puts these membership contracts in arbitration. So there's these concentric rings of defense Scientology erects, and we're trying to smash them down through lawsuits, criminal charges, things like that. I'm frankly surprised that the Chase Wave credit card fraud didn't result in criminal charges. It may yet. There may be a grand jury out on that. That's taking time.
Yeah, that absolutely, and that's all right, SirCreptius. It got taken care of. That's the main thing. Folks, we are coming up to 2 hours and 10 minutes. Would you guys be willing to come back next Sunday for a continuation on these topics?
Next Sunday.
SirCreptius?
Yeah, it should be good.
I'm good.
Jeffrey?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
Chad?
Absolutely.
Chad, will you make your bail hearing in time?
Yeah, I'll change that so I could come, Poe. This is
I was
more
actually
important.
surprised to see Chad here. I thought he was doing weekends.
You're not in the halfway house anymore, are you?
No, I got out of that, Poe.
Okay.
He's in a full way house.
But we've got to get him before he leaves on tour with Thunder from Down Under. So
Wow.
we got to make sure of that as well. So he's got his
By the
irons
way,
in a lot of fires right now.
Next Sunday is Father's Day, Poe. You going to be good doing that on Father's Day?
Yeah, we always do our stuff earlier in the day and then we go from there. So, all right. Last thoughts, folks. We'll start with you, Chad.
Oh, I learned a lot, and this was great, Poe, and everyone.
Absolutely. SirCreptius.
Yeah, I appreciate everybody being here. Definitely, Jeffrey, thank you for coming and joining us because you are a wealth of information. Very smart guy.
Oh,
And
thank you.
yeah, I learned some stuff. Definitely, I appreciate you.
And Jeffrey?
Oh, I was glad. It was great to be here. I think it's good to compare notes. I really enjoy interacting with the audience. Great audience today. So I appreciate you inviting me on, and you guys, I always enjoy SPTV. I like what is happening. So yeah, I want to come here next week and talk more, because we maybe next week we can do it. And I was talking about these intersections of law and parental rights and religious freedoms. It's sophisticated, going to be broken down. So we'll figure out a subject for next week. But I enjoyed being here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I've enjoyed this considerably. Folks, before we take off, let's see who has a live going and see who everybody wants to go see. Your lawyer friend, our lawyer friend Zach is on. Is anybody interested in doing a raid over on Zach's channel? So put it in the comments there.
Yeah.
And folks, thank you so much for being here with us tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, when it starts running into 2 hours, things like that. Go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to make one comment for my people who follow me. Last night, I did a walk around Celebrity Center. So tonight, Sebastian and I, my Borzoi, we're going to go to the Black Dahlia house, the scene of the infamous murder. Yeah, we're going to go to the Black Dahlia house tonight, and it'll be about 9 o'clock. So for those of you who are following my adventures last night, plus we're going to investigate the half-human creature in Griffith Park.
Oh, okay. I'll be on there.
Okay.
All right, folks. As always, thank you so very much. It looks like everybody's given us the go-ahead on that. So I have put the link in for Zach's channel. As you know, he has been having some medical issues, things like that, but he's a really good guy. And I like to show support where I can. Folks, thank you so much for being here tonight. I know there were a lot of people in chat saying a lot of things. You know what? We have our own opinions about things, but right now we're just going to stay above that and we're going to see how things play out. I'm just going to do my thing. SirCreptius is going to do his thing. Jeffrey's going to do his. Chad's going to do his. I'm not getting in any of this hatred or anything like that that's going on. You know, we know who our friends are. We know who we can trust. We know what's going on. And we need to keep our eyes focused on the reality of what's going on. And that is, we are fighting Scientology. We are fighting the SA of children. We are fighting against basically indentured servitude of thousands of people. I don't know how many times we have to show you the stories of the Jamie Mustards, the Miriam Francis, the Serge Delmars, all these folks, of what happened to Jeffrey's wife, Karen Delacarriere, when her own child passed away and they wouldn't let her attend the service of her child. They had to hold their own service. Folks, this is the reality of what we are fighting. We don't need to be worrying about infighting right now. We need to be focused. All right. And as always, thank you all so very much for being here. You know, it's an honor and it's a privilege to be here with you. So remember, life is short. You get one shot, make it count, and we'll see you over at Zach's channel.